I've got I'm in a bit of a strange situation where I have an online blog, and it started out Christian, and I've since kind of come out of the faith. I still would qualify myself as a theist to an extent, but a theist on his way out, almost a Christian atheist, if you could even coin that term, if that makes any sense. So I'm very closeted on my blog. I still haven't really come forth with a whole heck of a lot as far as giving my position away. But I think that one of the problems that I run into more frequently than others, and it kind of keeps me, at least mentally, in some aspect of theism and or creationism, would be the whole intelligent design, common design as opposed to common descent argument, because it seems as though if you bring up common descent to someone, they just simply fire back with, oh, well, that's the way the creator wanted it. It's the common design that you're actually looking at.
Sure, and that little boy I played with was a paranormal spirit. Yeah, I mean, you can make it, you can take anything and just say, and God did it. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what's so frustrating, because I have yet to find very compelling arguments for, well, I guess compelling in my mind and to other people who try to think rationally, but if you're trying to present compelling arguments to say, hey, this is not what a common designer would actually do, this is better answered by common descent, you're met with the same irrational responses, and you're kind of just brushed aside. Well, like you said, that's how God did it, so we have no need to question that.
Well,
his ways are mysterious.
Okay, and I'm going to suggest something here. There's a lot of ways to attack this problem, but one of the ways to attack the problem is to just simply ask why it is that they accept that there is some intelligence behind it. Like, it's really not. Are you familiar with the argument from ignorance fallacy, where someone just says, "I believe this" until someone disproves it? It basically, yeah, okay. It's a very common thing, and so what you're kind of doing is trying to debunk a belief that shouldn't be held in the first place, okay? So they're holding on to this and basically saying, prove me wrong, but they need to prove they're right. And so the problem is, what you're finding is, you can back it up all the way to there's no need for a creator, and still a person says, and yet I believe there's a creator that did this. And you're looking at their handiwork, and if it doesn't make sense to you, it's because we don't understand, because they're so much better than us. And there's no way around that. The question is to get to why they think there's a creator behind it.
That's exactly it, Tracie. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because if a good example is I was having a conversation with a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses last week, and they were saying, well, don't you think that X, Y, and Z? I forget exactly what we were talking about, but X, Y, and Z is designed. It's obviously designed. I said, well, yeah, sure, I agree that it's designed. That's not the issue here. It is designed, but you're inferring that there's an intelligence behind the design. Whereas I'm proposing that the design factor it has nothing to do with an intelligence. It's simply the product of natural forces and processes operating over time.
Right.
And that's where that wall again that you're running into comes up.
Yeah, I mean, it is a wall, because they're coming at this, looking at it and saying there is a personality behind this. And the problem with that is that there is no legitimate field of science that I'm aware of that has drawn that conclusion as a consensus at this time. And there are plenty of fields of science that tie into common descent or common ancestry. Like, there's genetics, there's biology, there's even when you want to get more abstract, like, do we have the timelines to have something like this happen? You end up with like geology and the age of the universe, and you're getting into physics. And so there's all these different things that come together to say that it appears that the idea of common ancestry has everything it needs to be demonstrated, including geneticists. There's like a famous theistic geneticist. Who is it? Francis?
Oh goodness, I know what you're referring to. I just
can't
remember.
Yeah, Francis Collins.
Yes,
and
Collins,
he was involved in like the Human
right.
Genome Project or whatever, and
Right.
he even said that you can't look at genetics and not know that this is a common ancestor. I mean, it's...
Oh, of course, and you know, I agree with that if you're looking at it rationally. But the problem becomes then you have the Ken Ham argument. You know, his famous line that I can't quote him verbatim, but essentially what he's saying is, yeah, exactly. Were you there?
Yeah,
and or he's going to say basically that, you know, this is just how God did it, and you're interpreting it through the lens.
Right, you know, but if what they're there's no lens to interpret. Here's the evidence for how this occurred, and we don't disagree. If we do disagree, then there's a bigger problem than whether they believe in God or not, because they're dismissing like entire huge bodies of evidence, and so. If they're willing to do that, the job is much harder. So when it comes to, I accept this common ancestry, and they're saying there's a God that you know, sort of started the ball rolling, or who is, you know, overseeing this in some way. The question then is, we all see the same thing when it comes to the common ancestry and the evidence for common ancestry, but we are disagreeing in seeing an intelligent designer that has started the ball rolling. So now the question becomes, how do you demonstrate how do you demonstrate the intelligent designer, right? Because there has to be an intelligent designer if an intelligent designer is doing things. So where is there evidence?
And then as Dawkins says, of course, where does the designer come from?
They're going to back that up with all kinds of special pleading about it's, you know, it doesn't need a creator, and it's all these, you know, it's like super thing that just is always and does what it does. And, you know, I mean, this is what it's going to come down to. But the question is, how do they know this? How are they getting this information? Where are they getting this information?
Sure.
Where is their demonstration? And why doesn't any area of legitimate scientific research have this information? Why do they have it and nobody who really could do anything to help them demonstrate their idea has it?
Well, you see what happens, Tracie, is they pound on the interpretive aspect of everything. So, in other words, you know, we're all looking at the same evidence. However, what you interpret as evidence for common descent, I'm going to interpret as evidence for common design. But the question is, what makes a common design interpretive, you know, look at that preferential? What gives that the
But
edge?
what I'm trying to point out is that they're adding something to it. All right, so it's almost like we're looking at this list of numbers and we see 1 through 10, and we agree that we're looking at 1 through 10, and they're saying, well, there's an 11 too there, and I'm saying I don't see an 11. I don't get where you're. So yeah, it's not that you're interpreting something. You're simply saying this is all there is to look at. They're saying there's something else to look at, and so that's up to them to demonstrate what else there is to look at. They're not disagreeing with you in what you're looking at. You're just simply saying, and there's no evidence that a designer did this. They're saying, I think a designer did it. And so the question is, if you want to add that layer to the idea, you need to show me where you're getting that layer.
Right. It's the burden of proof being placed where it needs to be placed instead of shifted.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that they will accept their reason, or like they said, they'll just do what Tracie said earlier, that they'll kind of fall back on, well, it's in the Word, or you know, it's divine revelation. Like it's hard to kind of get around that. Like I've had a few conversations like that, but even the intelligent design argument, which I have had, we were talking about evolution on my Facebook wall. This became a private message eventually, but it was basically saying that there was a designer that this couldn't have happened by an accident. Like it's too much that's perfect for this to be just by accident. It just fell into place.
But let me stop you for 1 second. They say that, and then when you point out imperfections, they say, well, that's because of the fall of man. So it's like they use an argument that it's perfect as evidence that there's this perfect designer, and the moment you start to point out it's not perfect, they're then like, and that proves the fall.
Yeah, or like, it's not the deity's fault.
What did you just do? Did you just hear yourself?
But yeah, that
exactly. So you can incorporate anything into the worldview. So back to the two Jehovah's Witnesses I was speaking with, I brought up the topic of bot flies, and are bot flies intelligently designed to burrow into the skin of a cow, lay their eggs, and hatch out? And it doesn't compute.
Oh, I feel bad though. I interrupted you. And
oh no, you're good. You're good. But I was just gonna say, like, at the end of that conversation, we kind of went to he was. Focus on the fact that there is a designer, that there has to be some kind of master planner that moved these things into place. And I said, well, okay, so even if I accept that, which I didn't necessarily, now how do we decide what this planner is? And of course, he was a Christian. He was Southern Baptist as well. And so he started going that route. And I said, well, how do we decide it was that one versus, well, there's a lot of other gods that's also been proposed. Now, how do we rule them out and say, well, yours is the one that wins? And so kind of going through that exercise, I was trying to get him to understand that his belief is on the same playing field as all of these thousands of other belief systems. These other gods are on the same playing field as the one that he believes in. And there's no reason that I should take his as true and as more significant than, oh, well, these Egyptian gods here or these Greek gods here. There's some awesome gods that have been proposed. Like, there's some very shitty ones as well. But there's a lot out there. So why is it not one of them and yours? How do I differentiate that? And that's kind of where our conversation kind of ended, because it got to the point where he was just like, well, you will never understand and blah, blah, blah. But trying to get him to understand that, you're on the same
field. You'll never get an answer.
What you want to do when the person hits that point is tell them to go and talk to a Muslim. Go convince the Muslim that it was not Allah that did this. Then they'll be locked into that forever. So that's not going to ever resolve.
And I know you guys are about done with the show, right?
I was actually going to ask Phil if he's able, because I don't mind cleaning the call board, but it might mean staying a few minutes.
That's fine.
Okay. But yeah, Aaron, we're going to need to let you roll. Feel free to stop by our blog if you want to, and sort of, because I can almost guarantee you there are going to be people responding to this call. So feel free to go drop by and see what they have to say or what their thoughts and ideas are as far as how to approach this problem.
I certainly will. Okay. And if I could say one more quickly thing, Tracie, one of the things that really kind of clinched the deal with me for common dissent as opposed to common design, at least so far, is endogenous retroviruses. Those are if you're gonna make the case that those are inserted into the genome by a common designer, the logical fallacies go through the roof on such a thing. So that's something I would encourage a lot of callers to look at, would be those retroviruses, and that's something that's really, really helped me kind of get a grip on the absurdity of claiming intelligent design.
Well, there's a tip from Aaron in Wyoming in how to deal with
Thank you, guys. Keep it up.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.